The Zowort Heavy, a model of Pale Technology's general-purpose mobile suits outfitted for combat. Its unique lightweight construction and propulsion capabilities have been further enhanced by upgrading its components. Furthermore, treatments to several of the mobile suit's components have been undertaken to allow for sustained use in atmospheric conditions known for their multitude of harsh environments, and its stability while in flight has also been markedly improved. These revamps have led to a surplus in the Zowort Heavy's loading capacity, allowing for it to equip its large-scale firearms to its back, a loadout that was not recommended with the mobile suit's standard counterpart. The left and right sides of the unit's backpack can be outfitted with heavy weaponry as the pilot sees fit. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at the high-grade Zowort Heavy, and once again this is from the new Gundam series, The Witch from Mercury. As usual, if you do want one of your own, I got mine through Hobby Link Japan, so I will throw a link down there in the description. Now let's get right on into it. So first off, I'm going to mention something, and I never usually talk about the box when it comes to these reviews, mainly because it's just a box. But this box art is one of the most fantastic Mecha pieces of art I have ever seen. What really blows me away is the fact that there's an actual reflection in the window of that building right behind the Zowort, and you can see the rear side of the Zowort. That is such attention to detail. That and the usual fantastic style we've got on these particular boxes right here, the Witch from Mercury ones, with the washed out high contrast look. The two more Zowort Heavies dropping down into that cityscape. This is absolutely stunning. I am blown away. So now jumping into the aesthetics, and this right here is what this kit looks like built out of box. So I haven't done anything extra to this in regard to panel lining or anything like that, but I will mention I did do one thing, and I did it with the standard Zowort as well, and I highly recommend this. If you ever have a kit with a clear visor like this one right here, or a gym or something like that, I always recommend using Bandai's chromed out Gundam marker underneath it. That throws the light out so vividly, so perfectly, giving it a little bit of an extra Halo Master Chief kind of feel. But yeah, besides that, this is what it looks like out of box. Also, I'm going to strip it of all of its extra parts straight away so we can kind of compare it to the standard Zowort so you can see what is a little bit different, and we'll get to all of that stuff later on in the accessories. So jumping first off into that full 360-degree spin, and once again this is pretty much identical to the Zowort, except now we have some shoulder armor and a different slightly armored head. We also don't have the thrusters round in the backpack, but otherwise this is physically identical. It did say in the manual that it has been upgraded thruster-wise and whatnot. That is not reflected on the actual model kit itself, so I assume those upgrades are internal only. Of course, the biggest difference and departure from the standard Zowort is we have a nice militaristic, almost forest green or camo kind of green color on this, which looks absolutely astounding. Matched with the really cool armored core style aesthetics these particular units have, this thing looks so beautiful. Anyway, as for a bit of a side-by-side comparison with the Zowort, there it is right there, both of them spinning. As you can see, we've got more of a Japanese bleach bottle minty jegging color on the standard Zowort compared to the darker green on this one. The thrusters round back are now missing, like I mentioned. We've got some shoulder armor where there was no shoulder armor before. Yes, it is compatible if you want to throw it on the normal Zowort. And the biggest real difference right here is the head. The head is a little thicker, looks more armored. We've got what look to be a pair of Vulcans or weapons up in the forehead segment, and it's lacking the little blade antenna that we had on the standard version of the Zowort. So jumping into a little bit of a size comparison, there it is beside absolutely every kit that's been released from the high-grade Witch from Mercury line so far. Well, besides the Darrell for some reason, it's just completely gone AWOL on me. I will find it eventually. Well, when it comes to this particular design, it's about the same size as the rest of them, like the Ariel, except the head is a little bit recessed into the body in that armored core kind of way. And speaking of armored core, this does everything you'd want an armored core-esque looking kit to do. It's got those long legs, long arms, tight torso with a little bit of a kind of almost cockpity looking vibe. Well, it is definitely a cockpit in the chest, but it really does have an almost nose of a jet kind of feel. This is another fantastic, absolutely awesome design, and my favorite grunt from the series so far, tied with the standard Zowort. Anyway, let's check out what it comes with. So when it comes to accessories, here's everything that comes inside of the box with the high-grade Zowort Heavy, and very similar to what we would have seen with the standard Zowort, except this is an expanded arsenal. So as for what we got with the standard Zowort, that is the beam sabers and the beam rifle. As for what is new, we've got the extension for the beam rifle, as well as the weapons for up on the shoulders. That is the beam cannon and the missile launcher. Finally, we do have these front segments right here for using on the legs, and these are some magazine holding aspects, I guess magazine pouches of some description, as well as this alternate part for using with them, which I'll talk about very soon. So first off, when it does come to the hands included with this kit, there is none besides the standard pair of holding hands. These are exactly the same as what we would have seen with the, well, normal version of the Zowort, no different. So that does mean you can see the palms of the hands when it's holding onto the weapon, which isn't really that big of a deal. The hands work fine, but there is no alternates in here, which is a little bit sad. And none available at the moment, I think, so far. Next up here is the weapons. These are the exact same beam sabers we would have seen with the standard Zowort. The handles are exactly the same too, just in the darker shade of green. These attach in the complete usual kind of way. You just slide them into the hands just like so. There's one, and there is the second one. So fairly normal. But without a single doubt, the best aspect about these particular beam sabers right here is how you store them away. Once again, exactly the same as the standard Zowort, you pop off the handles, and the beam saber handles can be stored on the forearms just like so. We've got a little peg, they plug in absolutely perfectly, and they look astounding for an easy, quick grab. Now, we'll mention I did it with the standard Zowort, but now with this kit, there is kind of a little bit of a hidden mod inside of these kits' arms. In order to access that, you kind of have to cut these little bits off while building it, and that means that you're actually able to make the arm move almost like Gundam Frak's arm and separate the beam saber from the forearm for an easier grab. This to me should be a no-brainer. Go for it. Do it. It looks phenomenal. Next up in here, we've got the beam rifle. This is the exact same style beam rifle as we would have seen with the standard Zowort, identical, but we do get something a little bit different in here. First off, attaching this is exactly the same. You just kind of move down the handle just like so, very simple. That slots up into the hand and then just closes up. Usually the arm doesn't fall off, but I will mention, a lot of people aren't the biggest fan of the C-clip joints on these kits, and this is kind of the reason why. They are quite inclined to drop stuff while you are actually doing things. I usually don't get that too much of an issue with it, but this one shoulder, for one reason or another, keeps being a little bit of a bitch. But yeah, the rifle right here is exactly the same as what we would have seen in the standard Zowort. We do have a little bit of a hollow part down on the handle there, which doesn't look the greatest. But what actually changes this kit ever so slightly is this right here, which is a little bit of a lengthener and girthener to the weapon. It just slots on super simply, just pops on just like so. That's it. It really isn't anything all that extreme or all that complex. But that does mean it is a little bit on the kind of weak side. It doesn't really hold on the greatest, but it's really weird actually, to be blatantly honest. Kind of a funny cup end that attaches onto it. It's the weirdest expansion I've seen. Well, that's upside down. It's the weirdest expansion I've seen to one of these weapons in these kits so far. Works though. Anyway, as for the blurb about this particular weapon in the manual, this is the Long Beam Gun, a portable firearm that consolidates custom modules developed for use in actual combat. The Zowort Heavy can carry 4 interchangeable battery magazines on its skirt. The weapon also has an added grenade launcher installed beneath the barrel, which can be used in short-range combat. So next up in here, we've got these little segments right here. So that manual right there just mentioned battery magazines, and that's essentially what these are. This peg and slotty majigger right here, those attach into the upper leg just like so, also somewhat expanding its armor. Both of these might look the same at first glance, but the one right here on its left leg is a little bit different. The upper segment can actually be removed and replaced with this little piece here. So basically how this works is you just remove the upper ammo magazine segment off of this part like so, pop the new one on, and we've got a slot in the top of that. If you remember, like the standard Zowort, we're able to remove the ammo magazine from the back of this particular weapon. It's called a battery in the manual, but as far as I can see, that looks like a bullet to me, unless they designed the terminal of the battery to kind of just look like bullets for the crack. Anyway, you can take that magazine, pop it into the slot in that armor segment up front like this, presumably to show one of these magazines being ejected from these particular slots in order to pose the Zowort getting ready to reload its weapon. Sadly, we do not have any widespread hands in here for posing it like that, but hopefully sometime in the future we will be getting another option set, probably with those weapons we saw in the intro with the Darrell Baldy and the Michaelis. So lastly, we're going to be taking a look at those back-mounted weapons, which essentially are one of the major aspects that makes this the heavy version of the Zowort, because these are the heavy weapons. So first up is the beam cannon, and jumping over to the manual for the blurb on that. An optional piece of equipment that can fire high output beam projectiles for medium and long range combat. This and other equipment can be installed as the pilot sees fit, and a variation of the Zowort Heavy that includes additional vectored boosters propulsion units affording higher mobility also exists. So when it comes to the actual weapon, this is quite simple. We do have a 3mm hole on both sides, so that means if you buy 2 of these kits, you can have one with 2 of these beam cannons instead of one with the missile launcher and the beam cannon. That is totally on purpose that they didn't include 4 weapons in the box, so you go out and buy a second one. I did. But for the most part, it is quite a simple weapon made up of only about 4 parts, if I remember correctly. Like I mentioned, this can be attached onto either or side, but I'm going to be going with the loadout that is in the manual. So it just attaches on, as simple as that right there. It has a lot of, well, it doesn't have a lot of articulation, but it's got smart articulation, so it can come over the shoulder like that, ready to fire, or you can just wind the whole thing back out of the way, just like so. Very, very, very armored core. Next up in here is the missile launcher, and what the manual says about this is an optional piece of equipment loaded to the Zowort Heavy's back. This projectile weapon houses 4 AMMS, anti-mobile missiles. So once again, this attaches to the Zowort back. However, this time there is not a 3mm hole on both sides of this, only on the one side. So as far as I can tell, you can only attach this on to this particular side, and that is all. As you can see, we do have some gray parts right there in the front housing the missile segments, and there is the back of it with the exhaust segments for when they're fired. These little hatches here, they can be opened up. It's not a smooth motion. Well, actually, that was smooth enough. So the best way to actually put it is, it's not actually a hinge, it's just a little piece of plastic. So when you do actually take it off, it looks like that right there. So it's more of a take it off and pop it on up top in the open position. But you can actually, surprisingly enough, kind of move these into the open position fairly smoothly. Oh, that's cool. At this point, I will note that the missiles inside of this are meant to be in gray. There are no stickers included, so if you want those color accurate, like this right here, you are going to have to paint them in a light gray. 70% aircraft gray and 30% standard gray by the looks of things. So anyway, that right there is it for the review. If you want to see the articulation about the Zowort, it's exactly the same as the standard version. There really isn't any reason to go through it again whatsoever. It's very, very nice. You can get some great poses out of it. I love posing this thing, and the overall armored core cross Gundam aesthetic just blows my mind. Now, there is only one complaint I have when it comes to the articulation about this, and that is the design of the shoulders. The shoulder joint goes in too goddamn far, and then the arms are likely to pop off, and it's really hard to fish that joint back out again. If it just went flush to the shoulder, it would have been simple, easy to pop it back on, but it goes in too far, and it's hard to pull it back out again. Besides that though, this is a fantastic kit. So yeah, with the standard version of the Zowort, I gave it Platinum tier, and I'm going to stick with that for the Zowort Heavy. It's pretty much the same kit with some additional stuff thrown into the box, with a different head and missing the big thrusters round back. It's an absolutely fantastic kit. I love it. If you love grunt kits, if you love armored core designs, and love Bandai's quality, this is a Mecha model kit you cannot pass up. Anyway, I got mine from HobbyLink, link down there in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gundam reviews, and I'll see you next time.